The wrapping paper crinkled between my fingers as I lifted the tiny yellow onesie from the gift box, holding it up for everyone to see. 40 pairs of eyes watched me with that special baby shower glow, their faces warm with anticipation as I reached for the next present. The April sun filtered through the oak tree above us, casting dancing shadows across the pastel decorations I'd spent weeks planning. This was my moment, my celebration of the life growing inside me, surrounded by everyone who mattered. "Oh, Sarah, that's adorable," my cousin Lisa called out from the circle of lawn chairs, her camera phone already capturing the scene. The pile of unopened gifts beside me seemed to shimmer with possibility, each one a small token of love for the baby who would arrive in just 3 months. Mike squeezed my shoulder from where he stood behind my chair, his pride radiating through that gentle touch. I was reaching for a silver-wrapped box when the sharp ping of metal against glass cut through the afternoon chatter. The sound made everyone turn, conversations dying mid-sentence as we all looked toward the source. Emma stood beside the gift table, her champagne flute raised high, that familiar spotlight-seeking smile already spreading across her face. She wore the emerald dress I'd specifically asked her not to wear, the one that made her look radiant while I felt like a beached whale in my maternity clothes. Everyone, if I could just have your attention for a moment," she called out, her voice carrying that theatrical quality that always made my stomach tighten. The half-opened gift in my hand suddenly felt heavy, forgotten. "I know this is Sarah's special day, but I have some news that I just can't keep to myself any longer." The backyard fell silent except for the distant hum of the neighbor's lawnmower. I watched Emma's face glow with barely contained excitement, and something cold settled in my chest. This was supposed to be my afternoon. My celebration. My moment to feel special and loved and celebrated. "I'm pregnant," Emma announced, her voice rising with triumph. "And not just pregnant, I'm having twins." The effect was immediate and devastating. 40 heads turned from me to Emma as if pulled by invisible strings. The carefully arranged circle of attention that had surrounded me for the past hour dissolved in an instant. Chairs scraped against the patio stones as guests rose to congratulate her, their excitement genuine and overwhelming. The gift in my hands might as well have been invisible. "Emma, oh my goodness." My mother's voice cut through the chaos, her own excitement betraying her. "Twins? How far along are you?" 14 weeks, Emma beamed, placing her hand on her still flat stomach with practiced grace. I wanted to wait until I was sure everything was perfect before sharing the news. 14 weeks. The number hit me like a physical blow. She'd known for months, known while I'd been planning the shower, known while I'd been sharing my own pregnancy milestones, known while she'd helped me pick out decorations and plan the menu. She'd sat through my excitement about becoming a mother for the first time, nodding and smiling and pretending to be surprised by my ultrasound photos, all while harboring the secret that she'd chosen to reveal at the most devastating possible moment. "This is so exciting," my best friend Rachel gushed, already making her way over to Emma with her arms extended. "We're going to have so many babies to spoil." I watched the crowd migrate toward Emma like moths to a flame, leaving me sitting alone in my chair with wrapping paper scattered around my feet like the remnants of my ruined celebration. The pile of unopened gifts beside me suddenly looked pathetic, forgotten in the wake of Emma's announcement. My hands trembled as I set down the silver box, the carefully planned joy of the afternoon crumbling around me. Mike's hand found my shoulder again, this time with a tension that matched my own. I could feel his anger radiating through his touch. But we both knew there was nothing we could do. Emma had won again, just like she always did. The spotlight that had been mine for such a brief, precious moment now belonged entirely to her. "Sarah," Emma called out suddenly, her voice sticky with false sweetness. "Isn't this wonderful? Our babies will practically be siblings." I forced my lips into what I hoped resembled a smile, though my cheeks felt like they might crack from the effort. "Wonderful," I managed, my voice sounding hollow even to my own ears. "Just wonderful." As Emma basked in the congratulations and exclamations of delight, as my own celebration transformed into her triumph, a realization began to crystallize. In my mind, this wasn't spontaneous. This wasn't just unfortunate timing. Emma had known exactly what she was doing when she stood up with that champagne glass, when she chose this moment to steal my thunder once again, and as I sat there surrounded by the wreckage of my perfect afternoon, forcing this brittle smile to stay plastered on my face, I began to wonder, how many times had she done this before? That same forced smile I was wearing now, I'd worn it before. The realization hit me like a physical shock as I watched Emma hold court in what used to be my celebration. My cheeks ached from the effort of keeping my expression neutral, but the muscle memory was there, carved deep from years of practice. The first time was at my wedding reception in 2019. I could see it now with devastating clarity, the exact moment Emma had stood up during the dinner toasts, her champagne glass catching the light just like it had moments ago. "I have an announcement too," she'd said, her voice carrying that same theatrical quality. "David proposed last night." The collective gasp from our wedding guests had been audible. My own gasp had been lost in the chaos as attention shifted from my marriage to her engagement. I'd sat there in my wedding dress, Mike's hand gripping mine under the table, watching my reception transform into Emma's engagement party. The photographer had actually turned his camera toward her, capturing her radiant face as she displayed the ring David had given her just 12 hours before my wedding. "Oh, Emma, how romantic," my grandmother had exclaimed, rising from her seat at the head table. "David must have been so inspired by seeing true love today." Inspired. As if my wedding had been nothing more than a catalyst for Emma's moment. I'd smiled then too, the same brittle, desperate smile I was wearing now. Mike had whispered in my ear that we'd deal with it later, but there was no dealing with it. The damage was done. The wedding video would forever show the moment my sister stole my thunder, and every time someone mentioned my reception, they'd remember Emma's engagement more than my vows, but I'd convinced myself it was just coincidence. Bad timing. Emma had been just as surprised as anyone when David proposed, right? She couldn't have known he was planning to ask her the night before my wedding. Could she? The memory dissolved and reformed into another scene, my college graduation. Dinner in 2020. The small family gathering at Luigi's, my favorite Italian restaurant, celebrating my master's degree in education. I'd been so proud, so excited to share my accomplishment with everyone who mattered. The scholarship I'd earned, the thesis I'd defended, the job offer I'd received, all of it felt like validation of everything I'd worked for until Emma had raised her wine glass halfway through the meal. "I have some news too," she'd said, and my stomach had dropped before she'd even continued. "I got the promotion at Morrison & Associates. I'm the youngest senior account manager in the company's history." The promotion she'd found out about 2 weeks earlier. The promotion she'd mentioned casually to me over coffee, asking if I thought she should wait to tell the family until after my graduation celebration. I'd told her to go ahead and share it. We were family, we could celebrate together. I'd been so naive. The conversation had immediately shifted to Emma's career advancement, her salary increase, her corner office. My graduation had become background noise, a footnote in the evening's real celebration. I'd sat there pushing linguine around my plate, watching my father beam with pride as Emma described her new responsibilities, feeling smaller and smaller as the minutes passed. "You're both such accomplished girls," my mother had said, but her eyes had been on Emma. They were always on Emma. The pattern was emerging now with sickening clarity. Each time, Emma had known in advance about my celebration. Each time, she'd had news ready to share. Each time, she'd chosen the exact moment when I was most vulnerable, most hopeful, most deserving of attention. My promotion dinner in 2022 swam into focus, the night I'd finally made department head at Roosevelt Elementary. I'd been so excited to share the news, so proud of becoming the youngest department head in the school's history. We'd gone to the Sunset Room, the fancy restaurant overlooking the harbor that I'd chosen specifically because it felt special enough. For such a momentous occasion, Emma had waited until dessert this time, until after I'd shared my excitement about the new position, the increased responsibility, the chance to mentor young teachers. She'd waited until the conversation had naturally started to wind down, until I was relaxed and glowing with happiness, then she'd pulled out her phone. "You guys have to see these photos from Bali," she'd said, swiping through image after image of pristine beaches and luxury resorts. "David and I just booked our honeymoon. We're going to stay in this overwater bungalow that costs more per night than most people make in a week." The photos had been stunning. The engagement ring sparkling against tropical sunsets, candlelit. Dinners on private beaches, couples massages in gazebos suspended over crystal clear water. My promotion had paled in comparison to her exotic luxury, my achievement dwarfed by her Instagram-worthy romance. "Oh my goodness, Emma," my cousin had breathed, reaching for the phone. "This is like something out of a magazine." And just like that, my celebration had become Emma's travel showcase. I'd watched my family scroll through photo after photo, exclaiming over each image, completely forgetting that we were supposed to be celebrating my career milestone. The promotion I'd worked years to achieve had been reduced to a brief mention, overshadowed by Emma's vacation plans, but she'd posted those photos on Instagram 3 days earlier. I'd seen them. I'd even liked them. She'd shown them to me over coffee that morning, asking what I thought about the resort spa packages. She'd known exactly what she was doing. The realization settled over me like a lead blanket as I sat there in my backyard, surrounded by the ruins of my baby shower. Emma hadn't just stolen my moments, she'd planned it. Each time, she'd prepared her announcement, chosen her timing, waited for the perfect moment to maximum impact. She'd weaponized my own excitement against me, using my joy as a spotlight to illuminate her own achievements. 5 years of systematic sabotage. 5 years of being made to feel selfish for wanting my own moments to matter. 5 years of being told I was overreacting, that I should be happy for Emma, that family celebrates together, but this wasn't celebration. This was war, and I was tired of losing. The champagne flute shattered against the kitchen sink as I scraped it into the trash, the sound sharp and satisfying in the quiet house. Mike had taken the last of the guests' plates to the car, leaving me alone with the aftermath of my ruined celebration. Pastel streamers hung limply from the ceiling, and baby shower decorations that had looked so cheerful this morning now felt like mockery. The phone rang at exactly 8:30 p.m., and I knew before I answered that it would be my mother. "Sarah, honey, I'm still reeling from Emma's news." Her voice bubbled with excitement that she'd never quite managed for my pregnancy announcement 3 months ago. "Twins. Can you believe it? I'm going to have 3 grandbabies within months of each other." 3 grandbabies. Not, "You're giving me my first grandchild," or, "How exciting that you're both pregnant." Just 3 grandbabies, as if my child was already diminished by Emma's 2. "Yes, Mom, it's quite a surprise," I managed, cramming crumpled wrapping paper into a garbage bag with more force than necessary. "Oh, and Sarah, I hope you don't mind that the party got a little derailed. Emma was just so excited, and you know how she gets when she has good news. She's always been our little performer." Our little performer. The phrase hit me like a slap. Emma wasn't performing, she was calculating, manipulating, systematically destroying my moments. But my mother saw it as charming theatricality, as if Emma's need for attention was some endearing quirk instead of the weapon it actually was. "I'm sure you understand," my mother continued, completely oblivious to my silence. "Emma said she's been dying to tell everyone but wanted to wait until she was sure everything was perfect. Isn't that just like her? Always so thoughtful about timing." Thoughtful about timing. The irony was so thick I could have choked on it. "Mom, it was my baby shower," I said quietly, testing the words. "Oh, of course it was, sweetheart. And it was lovely. But you know how much Emma loves babies. She's always been so maternal. Remember when she used to carry her dolls everywhere? I always knew she'd be the first to give me grandbabies. The first to give me grandbabies." I stared at my reflection in the kitchen window, watching my face transform into something I barely recognized. Emma wasn't giving her grandbabies first, I was. But somehow, in my mother's mind, Emma's announcement at my baby shower had retroactively made her the first, the most important, the center of attention. "I have to go, Mom," I said, my voice sounding strange and distant. "Mike needs help with the, oh, before you go. I called Emma after I got home, and she asked me to tell you how sorry she was if the timing seemed off. She said she was just so overwhelmed with joy that she couldn't keep it inside anymore. You know how Emma is, she wears her heart on her sleeve." She wears her heart on her sleeve. Right. What she wore was a carefully constructed mask of innocence that my family had been buying for 32 years. I hung up before my mother could say anything else, but the phone rang again within minutes. This time it was my father. "Sarah, congratulations on your shower today. Your mother said it was beautiful." His voice carried that perfunctory tone he used when he felt obligated to acknowledge something but wasn't really interested. "But I have to tell you, I'm just over the moon about Emma's news. Twins. That's God's blessing right there. God's blessing. As if my single baby was somehow less blessed, less important, less worthy of divine attention." "Dad," I called Emma. "After your mother told me the news, and she was practically glowing over the phone. She said she's been praying for this for months. You know how much she and David have wanted children. They're going to be such wonderful parents. Such wonderful parents." The words stung because he'd never said them about Mike and me. When I'd told him about my pregnancy, he'd nodded and said it was nice news. Emma got God's blessing and wonderful parent predictions. I got nice news. I should go help Mike. "Oh, and Sarah?" Emma mentioned that she's a little worried about managing twins. "I told her your mother and I would be happy to help out whenever she needs it. You know how overwhelming 2 babies can be. 2 babies that would get my parents' help and attention. 2 babies that would be spoiled and celebrated and doted upon. 2 babies that would make my one baby seem like an afterthought." I ended the call without saying goodbye and turned off the phone, but it was too late. The damage was already spreading through my family network like poison. I could picture it. Now, Emma calling everyone, sharing her news, accepting congratulations, basking in the attention she'd stolen from me. And everyone would enable it, excuse it, celebrate it. 20 minutes later, Mike found me scrubbing the kitchen counter with enough force to wear through the granite. "Sarah, you're going to take the finish off," he said gently, covering my hand with his. "My Aunt Patricia called," I said without looking up. "She said Emma is the family baby whisperer, and that I should feel blessed to have such a maternal sister to guide me through motherhood." Mike's jaw tightened. "She said what?" "The family baby whisperer." Because Emma's having twins, she's automatically the expert on pregnancy and babies. Never mind that I'm actually pregnant right now, that I've been reading every book and taking every class. Emma's the expert because she's having two. The counter was spotless, but I kept scrubbing. The repetitive motion was the only thing keeping me from screaming. And my cousin Janet called to ask if I was planning to have a joint baby shower with Emma next month. A joint shower, Mike. For Emma's babies. At what was supposed to be my celebration. Mike pulled the cleaning cloth from my hands and turned me to face him. Sarah, you're scaring me. I've never seen you like this. Like what? Cold? Calculating? Finally seeing my family clearly for the first time in 32 years? I looked at my husband, this good man who'd watched Emma humiliate me repeatedly. And had never once suggested I was overreacting, and felt something shift inside me. I'm tired of being the afterthought, I said, my voice steady and calm in a way that surprised us both. I'm tired of being the backup plan, the second choice, the one who gets the leftover attention after Emma's taken what she wants. Mike's eyes searched my face, and I could see him recognizing something new there. Something harder. Something that had been forged in the crucible of years of systematic dismissal. What are you thinking? He asked quietly. I looked around the kitchen, at the party debris, at the gifts for my baby that no one would remember receiving, at the evidence of my celebration that had been sacrificed on the altar of Emma's need for attention. I'm thinking it's time I understood exactly what kind of marriage Emma has, I said. Because David proposed the night before my wedding. And I want to know if that was really his idea. The pieces were falling into place now, but I needed to see the whole picture. Emma's pattern of moment stealing wasn't just about me, it was about something deeper, something that drove her to constantly seek validation and attention, and I was going to find out exactly what that was. The coffee shop was nearly empty at 9:15 a.m. on a Sunday morning, which was exactly what I needed. Mike had offered to come with me, but this was something I had to do alone. My laptop sat open on the small round table, Emma's Instagram profile. Filling the screen like evidence in a case I was finally ready to build, her latest post was already up, a glowing selfie from last night, her hand resting on her still flat stomach, captioned, "Feeling so blessed to share our miracle with family. Today, 2 hearts baby hashtag twins on the way hashtag family love hashtag blessed." The photo had been taken in my backyard, I realized with a sick twist in my stomach. She'd used my baby shower as a backdrop for her announcement post, literally turning my celebration into her content, but I wasn't here to stew over yesterday's humiliation. I was here to investigate, and I had the analytical skills to do it properly. 15 years of teaching had taught me how to read between the lines, how to spot patterns, how to notice what was missing as much as what was there. I scrolled backward through Emma's posts, looking for cracks in her perfect facade. The pattern was immediately obvious once I knew what to look for. Emma posted constantly, multiple times a day, usually, but David appeared in fewer and fewer photos the further back I went. In the past 6 months, he'd been tagged in maybe a dozen posts, and in most of those, he looked uncomfortable. There was the anniversary dinner post from February. Emma beaming at the camera, David looking past it toward something else entirely. His smile was tight, forced, the same expression I'd been wearing at family gatherings for years. The caption read, 5 years of marriage and still feel like newlyweds. 2 hearts hashtag anniversary hashtag so in love hashtag my forever. But David's body language told a different story. His hand rested on the table between them, not touching Emma. His shoulders were angled away from her. His eyes held that particular exhaustion I recognized from Mike's face during our worst arguments. I clicked on the comments. Emma's friends gushed about how perfect they were, how lucky Emma was, how romantic the evening looked. But there was no comment from David himself. He'd been tagged, but he hadn't responded to his own anniversary post. I scrolled further. Valentine's Day, Emma had posted a photo of roses and chocolates with the caption, "My amazing husband knows exactly how to make me feel special. 2 hearts rose hashtag Valentine's Day hashtag spoiled rotten hashtag lucky girl." David wasn't in the photo. In fact, looking at the timestamp, he'd been at work when she posted it. I knew because Mike had mentioned that David had been pulling extra shifts at the hospital all winter. The Christmas photos were even more telling. Emma had posted a dozen shots from our family celebration, but David appeared in only 3 of them. In one, he was clearly trying to move out of frame. In another, he was checking his phone while Emma posed beside him. The third showed him playing with our cousin's kids in the background, his face relaxed and genuine for the first time in any of Emma's posts. I remembered that Christmas gathering now with new eyes. David had spent most of the evening in the kitchen, helping with dishes, talking quietly with Mike about work. He'd seemed relieved to be away from the main gathering, away from Emma's constant need to orchestrate perfect moments for her social media, and Emma had been frustrated by his absence. I'd caught her snapping at him when he'd stepped outside to take a phone call, her voice sharp with irritation. David, I'm trying to get photos for my Christmas post. Can you please just stay still for 5 minutes? He'd stayed still, but he'd looked miserable doing it. I kept scrolling, building my case. Emma's birthday post in March featured a photo of her alone with an elaborate cake, captioned, "Another year older and feeling more grateful than ever. Special thanks to my husband for making my day perfect. 2 hearts birthday cake hashtag birthday girl hashtag 32 and fabulous hashtag blessed life." But I remembered that birthday. David had worked a double shift and missed the family dinner entirely. Emma had been furious, though she'd hidden it well from everyone else. The more I looked, the clearer the pattern became. Emma's social media painted a picture of marital bliss. But the reality was different. David was pulling away, becoming more distant, less willing to participate in Emma's performance of perfection. And Emma was working harder and harder to maintain the illusion, posting more frequently, using more desperate hashtags, crafting more elaborate captions. I thought about yesterday's announcement and realized something I'd missed in my initial shock. David hadn't been there when Emma made her pregnancy announcement. He'd been at the hospital, working another extra shift. Emma had mentioned it casually when someone asked where he was, but now I wondered if that was really why he'd been absent. When was the last time I'd seen David at a family gathering? Really seen him, not just noticed his absence? I scrolled through my own mental catalog of recent events. He'd missed my promotion dinner. He'd left early from Easter brunch. He'd been working during my last birthday party. A pattern within a pattern. Emma stole my moments, but David avoided hers. I pulled up David's own social media profiles. His Instagram was sparse, professional, mostly hospital-related posts and medical conference photos. No romantic shots with Emma. No anniversary tributes. No Valentine's posts. His Facebook was even more telling. His relationship status was still listed as married, but his last post featuring Emma was from over a year ago, for someone supposedly expecting twins. David seemed remarkably uninvolved in the celebration. I closed the laptop and leaned back in my chair, pieces clicking into place. Emma's escalating need for attention, her increasingly desperate attempts to steal spotlight, her husband's growing distance, it all pointed to something fracturing in her perfect life. And yesterday's announcement, made without David present, felt less like joyful news and more like a woman trying to force her husband's hand. But I needed more than social media analysis. I needed to talk to someone who'd seen Emma's behavior up close, someone who might be as tired of her performance as I was becoming. I needed to talk to David. The thought should have felt uncomfortable. Reaching out to my brother-in-law to discuss my sister's behavior felt like crossing a line. But Emma had been crossing lines for years, and my family had been enabling it. If David was pulling away from Emma, if he was seeing the same patterns I was finally recognizing, then maybe he was ready to have the conversation no one else in our family seemed willing to have. Maybe he was ready to tell me the truth about what was really happening behind Emma's perfect facade. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to David's contact information. My finger hovered over the call button as I wrestled with the decision. Was I really ready to turn my investigation into action? The answer came swiftly. After 32 years of being Emma's afterthought, after yesterday's devastating humiliation, after a lifetime of watching my family excuse her behavior while dismissing mine, I was more than ready. I was ready to find out exactly what David knew about my sister's need to steal every moment that should have been mine. The text I'd sent to David that morning had been simple: "Can we meet? I need to talk to you about Emma." His response had come within minutes: "Yes. Tonight. Luigi's at 7. We need to talk." The speed of his reply told me everything I needed to know. David had been waiting for this conversation as much as I had. Luigi's was the same restaurant where Emma had destroyed my graduation celebration 4 years ago, and I'd chosen it deliberately. If we were going to discuss Emma's pattern of sabotage, we might as well do it in a place where she'd practiced her craft. David was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with his back to the wall. He looked older than I remembered, worn down in a way that had nothing to do with his demanding job at the hospital. His shoulders carried the weight of someone who'd been fighting a losing battle for far too long. "Sarah," he said, standing to greet me. "Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for meeting me." I slid into the booth across from him, noting the way his eyes darted toward the restaurant entrance. "Are you worried she'll see us?" "Emma tracks my location through my phone," he said matter-of-factly. "I told her I was meeting a colleague for dinner. She'll probably call in about an hour to check on me." The casual way he said it, as if having his location monitored by his wife was perfectly normal, sent a chill through me. I'd suspected Emma was controlling, but this felt like something else entirely. "David, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." I leaned forward, my voice low. "Saturday's announcement at my baby shower, was that planned?" He didn't hesitate. She's been planning it for weeks. She had the timing mapped out, down to the minute. She knew exactly when you'd be opening gifts, when you'd be most vulnerable, when the attention would be completely focused on you. The confirmation hit me like a physical blow, even though I'd known it was true. Hearing it said out loud made it real in a way that hurt more than I'd expected. She practiced the announcement, David continued, his voice flat with exhaustion. In front of the mirror, timing the pause, perfecting the dramatic reveal. She rehearsed it like a performance. But why? The question came out as a whisper. Why does she need to destroy my moments? David's laugh was bitter. Because she's jealous of you, Sarah. She's always been jealous of you. Jealous of me? I stared at him. Emma's the golden child. She's the one everyone loves, the one who gets all the attention. No, David interrupted. Emma gets attention because she demands it, because she manufactures it, because she can't function without it. But you? You have something she's never had. What? You have a husband who genuinely loves you. You have a career you're passionate about. You have friends who care about you for who you are, not what you can do for them. You have a life that doesn't require constant performance and validation. The words hung between us like a revelation. I thought about Mike's hand on my shoulder. During the baby shower, his quiet support, his genuine anger on my behalf. I thought about my students, my colleagues, my friends who celebrated my achievements without needing to compete with them. Emma has spent our entire marriage trying to prove she's happier than you, David continued. Every anniversary post, every vacation photo, every social media declaration of love, it's all designed to make you think her life is better than yours. But the truth is, she's miserable. Then why stay with her? David's hand moved instinctively to his phone as it buzzed. Emma's name flashed on the screen. She's checking on me, he said, declining the call. She does this constantly. If I don't answer, she'll call the restaurant. He looked at me with tired eyes. I've been trying to leave for 2 years, Sarah. I've talked to lawyers, I've looked at apartments, I've planned my exit strategy a dozen times. But every time I'm ready to go, Emma creates a crisis. She gets sick, she has a family emergency, she needs me for something critical. And now she's pregnant. And now she's pregnant. He rubbed his forehead. With twins. Which means I'm trapped for at least another 18 years, probably longer. The pieces were falling into place with sickening clarity. David, when did she find out about the twins? 6 weeks ago. Right after your last family dinner, when you mentioned planning the baby shower. 6 weeks ago. Emma had known about her pregnancy for 6 weeks, had known it was twins, had planned her announcement to coincide with my celebration. She'd sat through family dinners, helped me plan my own shower, listened to my excitement about becoming a mother, all while plotting to destroy my moment. She's been using the pregnancy as leverage, David said quietly. Every time I bring up problems in our marriage, she redirects the conversation to the babies. How can I think about leaving when she's carrying my children? How can I be so selfish when she needs my support? His phone buzzed again. This time, he answered. Hi, Em. Yeah, I'm at Luigi's. Dr. Morrison, from cardiology. No, just work stuff. I should be home by 9. He listened for a moment. I know you're tired. I'll pick up ice cream on the way home. Love you too. He hung up and looked at me with an expression I recognized, the same forced smile I'd been wearing for years. She's playing the vulnerable pregnant wife, he said. But last week, before the pregnancy announcement, she was researching divorce lawyers. I found the browser history on her laptop. She was planning to divorce you. She was planning to divorce me if I didn't give her what she wanted. The pregnancy announcement at your shower wasn't just about stealing your moment, Sarah. It was about forcing my hand, making me recommit to the marriage publicly, making it impossible for me to leave without looking like a monster who abandoned his pregnant wife. The manipulation was breathtaking in its scope. Emma hadn't just destroyed my baby shower for attention, she'd used it as a weapon against her own husband. I have something for you, David said, reaching into his jacket. He pulled out a small flash drive. Emma doesn't know I've been documenting her behavior. Screenshots of text messages, recordings of her practicing her spontaneous announcements, photos of her research into your life. Research into my life? She has a folder on her computer called Sarah's Events. Every birthday, every anniversary, every achievement you've shared with the family. She studies your life like it's her competition. I stared at the flash drive in his hand, this small piece of technology that contained evidence of my sister's systematic campaign against my happiness. Why are you giving me this? Because I'm tired of being complicit in her destruction of you. Because you deserve to know the truth. And because maybe, if you understand what she's really doing, you can find a way to stop her. I took the flash drive, feeling its weight in my palm. What exactly is on here? Everything you need to understand that Emma's entire life is built around competing with you. Text messages where she calls you pathetic. Voice recordings where she practices stealing your moments. Screenshots of social media posts she's drafted but never sent, all designed to upstage your announcements. David's phone rang again. This time, he let it go to voicemail. She's getting suspicious, he said. I should go. But Sarah, whatever you decide to do with that information, I want you to know that you're not crazy. You're not overreacting. Emma has been systematically sabotaging your happiness for years, and our family has been enabling it. He stood to leave, then paused. And Sarah? She's not done. The twins aren't due until November, which means she has months to plan her next move. Whatever you're thinking about your baby's arrival, she's already thinking about how to steal that moment too. The thought hit me like ice water. My baby's birth, the most important moment of my life, and Emma was already planning how to destroy it, but this time, I wouldn't be caught off guard. This time, I had evidence. This time, I had an ally. This time, I was going to be ready for her. The strategic alliance Derek and I forged over dinner became my lifeline over the next 3 days. Tuesday morning, my phone buzzed with the first delivery of ammunition. Emma's at CrossFit with Marcus until 10. Check your email. Derek's message made my pulse quicken. I opened my laptop with trembling fingers, and there it was, a forwarded email chain between Emma and her personal trainer. My breath caught as I read her flirtatious messages, her complaints about Derek's emotional unavailability, and Marcus's responses that left nothing to the imagination. The timestamps showed their affair had been going on for months, even before my pregnancy announcement, but that wasn't all. Derek had attached bank statements showing Emma's secret credit card, $47,000 in debt from designer shopping sprees she'd hidden from him. Charges at boutiques I'd never heard of, jewelry purchases that made my head spin, spa treatments that cost more than my monthly mortgage. The woman who'd lectured me about financial responsibility during my baby shower had been bleeding money like a wound. Wednesday brought even more devastating revelations. Derek called while Emma was at her prenatal appointment, an appointment he discovered she'd been lying about. The twins' story is fabricated, he said, his voice hollow through the phone. I confronted her doctor's office yesterday. She's having a single baby, Sarah. Just one. My hands shook as I processed this information. She lied about twins? She's been lying about everything. The due date, the complications, even the gender reveal party she's planning. It's all theater designed to maximize attention. Derek's voice cracked. I've been such a fool. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Emma had announced her pregnancy at my baby's shower not out of excitement, but calculated sabotage. She'd fabricated the twin story to ensure her news would completely overshadow mine. The timing of her announcement, the dramatic way she'd stolen my moment, it had all been orchestrated. There's more, Derek continued. I hired a private investigator. Last month. Emma's been meeting Marcus at his apartment every Tuesday and Thursday for the past 6 months. I have photos, Sarah. Timestamps. Everything. I stared at my computer screen, watching the evidence pile up in my inbox. Photos of Emma entering Marcus's building, credit card statements showing hotel charges on days she'd claimed to be at book club, text messages between them that made my stomach turn. The woman who'd positioned herself as the moral authority of our family was living a complete lie. Thursday evening, I sat in my home office surrounded by printed documents, my mind racing through the implications. Emma had spent years positioning herself as the perfect wife, the responsible sister-in-law, the woman who had everything together. She'd used this false pedestal to judge me, to make me feel inadequate, to steal my moments of joy. The moral conflict tore at me. Part of me knew this was my family, that exposing Emma would detonate relationships that might never recover. But another part of me, the part that had been diminished and dismissed for too long, burned with righteous fury. Emma had weaponized my pregnancy announcement against me. She'd turned my baby shower into her stage. She'd made me question my worth. As a mother before my child was even born, Derek texted me Thursday night, family dinner tomorrow. Are you ready? I looked at the manila folder I'd prepared, thick with evidence of Emma's deceptions. Bank statements showing her secret debt. Photos of her with Marcus. Screenshots of her lies about the twins. Medical records Derek had obtained, showing her actual due date was 2 months later than she'd claimed. I'm ready, I typed back, surprised by how steady my hands felt. The woman who'd taught me that truth was sacred would finally meet the consequences of her lies. Emma had orchestrated her performance to perfection, but she'd forgotten one crucial detail. Every performance eventually reaches its final act. Tomorrow's family dinner would be Emma's closing night, and I held every script note she'd tried to hide. The student had become the teacher, and class was about to begin. The moral resolution I'd reached Thursday night crystallized into cold determination as I arranged the final details Friday afternoon. My parents' dining room had never looked more perfect, the good china gleaming under the chandelier, fresh flowers adorning the mahogany table. The family portrait gallery bearing witness from the walls. I'd called everyone Wednesday with the same script. I want to throw Emma a proper celebration dinner for her wonderful news. Can you come Friday at 6:30? Mom, Dad, Aunt Linda, Uncle Robert, even Emma's parents had eagerly accepted. Derek, playing his role flawlessly, had convinced Emma it was a surprise I'd planned to make amends for my selfish behavior at the baby shower. The manila folder rested in my bedroom upstairs. But I wouldn't need it yet. Tonight was about theater, and every great performance required proper staging. Emma arrived at 6:45, fashionably late as always, wearing a flowing dress that accentuated her barely visible bump. She'd clearly dressed for celebration, her hair styled in perfect waves, makeup applied with professional precision, jewelry that caught the light with every gesture. Derek followed behind her, his face carefully neutral, though I caught the brief nod he gave me. "Sarah," Emma exclaimed, pulling me into an embrace that felt like performance art. "This is so thoughtful of you. I'm so glad we can move past last weekend's misunderstanding." I smiled, matching her theatrical warmth. "Family is everything, Emma. I wanted to make sure everyone could celebrate your incredible news properly." The extended family had already gathered in the living room, champagne glasses in hand, their faces bright with anticipation. Mom had outdone herself with the appetizers, and the atmosphere hummed with genuine joy. They had no idea they were assembling as witnesses to Emma's reckoning. "Look at you, glowing," Aunt Linda gushed, rushing to Emma's side. "Derek told us about the twins. How exciting." Emma's smile widened, her hand instinctively moving to her stomach. "It's been such a journey. We're so blessed." Uncle Robert raised his glass. "To Emma and Derek, and the beautiful family they're building." The room echoed with agreement, glasses clinking, voices overlapping with congratulations and questions about due dates and nursery plans. Emma fielded each inquiry with practiced grace, her lies flowing like rehearsed lines. She spoke of twin complications, specialized doctors, the challenges of carrying multiples. Each fabrication landed perfectly with our unsuspecting audience. I watched from the kitchen doorway, playing the attentive hostess while cataloging every deception. Emma had positioned herself in the center of the room, quite literally holding court, her pregnancy the crown jewel of her performance. She'd mastered the art of humble bragging, mentioning her high-risk status with just enough worry to garner sympathy, discussing her specialized care team with subtle pride. "Sarah's been such a support," Emma announced, catching my eye across the room. "She understands what it's like to navigate pregnancy in this family." The irony wasn't lost on me. Emma was crediting me with understanding, when she'd spent months undermining my confidence as an expectant mother. She'd positioned herself as the expert, the one with answers, the beacon of maternal wisdom. Now she was using my own pregnancy to validate her lies. "Dinner is served," I announced, watching as everyone filed into the dining room. Emma naturally gravitated toward the head of the table, the seat of honor I'd deliberately left empty. She settled into it with practiced ease, completely comfortable being the center of attention. As we moved through the meal, I played my role perfectly. I asked about Emma's doctor appointments, her nursery plans, her pregnancy symptoms. Each question gave her another opportunity to elaborate on her fiction, to dig herself deeper into the web of lies I'd spent 3 days documenting. "Emma, you must share your birth plan," Mom suggested over the main course. "With twins, there are so many considerations." Emma launched into a detailed explanation of her specialized delivery team, her high-risk protocols, her unique medical needs. Derek's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, but he remained silent, letting his wife build her house of cards higher and higher. The family hung on her every word, their faces reflecting genuine concern and admiration. Emma had painted herself as both victim and hero, the brave mother facing extraordinary challenges with grace and strength. It was a masterful performance, and she had no idea it was about to become her final BOW. As dessert was served, I stood and tapped my glass with a spoon. The gentle chiming drew everyone's attention, and the conversation gradually quieted. "Before we finish this wonderful evening," I began, my voice steady and warm, "I have something special I'd like to share about Emma." Emma's face lit up with anticipation, clearly expecting another round of praise. The family turned toward me expectantly, their faces open and trusting. "Emma has been such an inspiration to me throughout my pregnancy," I continued, watching her practically glow with satisfaction. "She's taught me so much about honesty, about family values, about the importance of truth. Emma nodded graciously, completely unaware that I'd just loaded the first bullet into the chamber of her destruction. The moment of truth stretched before us like a precipice, and Emma sat poised at its edge, smiling radiantly into the abyss of her own making. The moment of truth I'd orchestrated hung in the air like a blade waiting to fall. Emma's radiant smile hadn't wavered, and the family's expectant faces told me they were prepared for another round of congratulations. Emma has indeed taught me about truth, I continued, my voice carrying across the suddenly quiet dining room. Which is why I think it's time our family learned some truths about Emma. The shift in atmosphere was immediate. Emma's smile flickered, confusion replacing confidence. Derek's posture straightened, and I caught the subtle nod he gave me, our signal that he was ready. Last Tuesday, Emma's husband Derek came to me with some disturbing information. I reached into my purse and withdrew a manila folder, placing it deliberately on the table. Information that I believe this family deserves to know. Sarah, what are you doing? Emma's voice had lost its practiced sweetness, taking on an edge that made several family members glance between us uncertainly. I'm sharing what Derek discovered about your affair with Marcus Chen, your personal trainer. The words dropped like stones into still water. The affair that's been going on for 6 months. The silence that followed was deafening. Emma's face went white, then flushed red. That's absolutely ridiculous. Derek, tell them, it's true, Derek said quietly, his voice carrying across the table with devastating finality. I have photographs, Emma. Timestamps. Hotel receipts. I opened the folder and withdrew the first set of photos, clear images of Emma entering Marcus's apartment building, kissing him in the parking lot, leaving his place on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons when she claimed to be at book club. These were taken over the past month, I said, passing them around the table. Every Tuesday and Thursday, while Derek thought his wife was reading novels with friends. Aunt Linda gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Uncle Robert's champagne glass sat forgotten as he stared at the photos. Mom's face had gone pale, her eyes moving between the images and Emma's increasingly desperate expression. But that's not all, I continued, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. Derek also discovered that Emma has been hiding massive debt from her family. I produced the credit card statements, the ones showing $47,000 in secret spending. Designer shopping, spa treatments, jewelry purchases, all hidden from Derek while she lectured me about financial responsibility at my baby shower. Emma's father leaned forward, his face grave as he examined the financial documents. Emma, is this true? You don't understand, Emma said, her voice rising with panic. This is all taken out of context. Sarah is trying to, and finally, I interrupted, producing the medical records Derek had obtained, the biggest lie of all. Emma isn't having twins. The room erupted in confused murmurs. Emma's mother gasped, what do you mean? Derek contacted her doctor's office. Emma is having a single baby, not twins. She fabricated the entire story to maximize attention and sympathy. I held up the medical records. Her actual due date is 2 months later than she claimed, which means she lied about when she got pregnant. Emma shot to her feet, her chair scraping against the hardwood floor. You vindictive bitch. You can't stand that I'm pregnant, that I'm happy, that I have everything you want. Everything I want? I stood as well, my voice carrying years of suppressed anger. You mean like a marriage built on lies? Massive debt? An affair that's been going on since before I even announced my pregnancy? Derek, you bastard. Emma whirled on her husband, her careful composure completely shattered. How could you betray me like this? Betray you? Derek's voice was quiet but filled with pain. Emma, you've been lying to me for months. To our families. To everyone. The timing of your pregnancy announcement wasn't coincidental, was it, Emma? I pressed on, feeling the momentum of truth behind me. You announced it at my baby shower specifically to steal my moment. You've been planning this performance for months. Emma's face crumpled, tears of rage and humiliation streaming down her cheeks. You have no idea what it's like to be in your shadow, Sarah. Perfect Sarah with her perfect marriage, her perfect life. You have no idea what it's like to feel invisible. So you decided to build your visibility on lies, I replied, my voice softer now but no less firm. You positioned yourself as the moral authority of this family while living a complete fabrication. The family sat in stunned silence, processing the magnitude of Emma's deception. Years of her judgments, her advice, her positioning as the responsible one, all of it recontextualized by the evidence spread across the dining room table. Emma, Mom said quietly, her voice breaking, how could you do this to your family? Emma looked around the table at faces that had once looked at her with admiration and now reflected shock, disappointment, and betrayal. The pedestal she'd built for herself had crumbled completely, leaving her standing in the wreckage of her own making. I want everyone to leave, she said, her voice breaking. Just everyone get out. Emma, this is my parents' house, I said gently. And we're your family. We need to talk about this. But Emma was already fleeing, her heels clicking against the hardwood as she rushed toward the door. Derek followed, pausing only to look back at me with gratitude and exhaustion in his eyes. The silence that followed was profound. The family sat motionless, staring at the evidence scattered across the table: photographs, financial records, medical documents that painted a picture of systematic deception that had fooled them all. I remained standing, my heart pounding but my conscience clear. The truth had finally been served, and Emma's house of cards had collapsed exactly as I'd planned. Justice, I realized, tasted like vindication served on my grandmother's china. The shocked silence that had followed Emma's dramatic exit haunted my dreams, but I woke Saturday morning to something far more jarring: 7 voicemails and 14 text messages on my phone. The family had found their voices overnight, and they had plenty to say. I made coffee with shaking hands and pressed play on the first message, steeling myself for the backlash I'd known would come. Sarah, this is your Aunt Linda. Her voice was tight with disapproval. I cannot believe what you did last night. That poor girl is pregnant and you humiliated her in front of the entire family. There were better ways to handle this situation. You need to apologize immediately. My stomach clenched. Poor girl. Even with photographic evidence of Emma's affair and financial deception, Aunt Linda's first instinct was to protect the liar and blame the truth teller. The next message was from Uncle Robert, his tone equally condemning. Sarah, what you did was vindictive and cruel. Emma made some mistakes, but that doesn't justify publicly destroying her like that. You've torn this family apart. I deleted the message and moved to the next, bracing myself for more of the same. But Mom's voice surprised me with its uncertainty rather than accusation. Honey, I don't know what to think. Those photos were very upsetting, and the financial records, but Sarah, did you have to do it that way? In front of everyone? Call me when you get this. The pattern continued through the messages. 3 family members condemned me for disrupting family harmony, 2 seemed genuinely shocked by Emma's deceptions but questioned my methods, and 1, my cousin Jennifer, left a message that made my chest tighten with relief. Sarah, I just wanted to say thank you. I've always felt like something was off about Emma, but I could never put my finger on it. What you did took courage, and I'm sorry some of the family is blaming you for telling the truth. You did the right thing. The right thing. Such simple words, but they felt like a lifeline thrown to a drowning woman. My phone buzzed with an incoming call from Derek. I answered immediately, needing to hear from the one person who truly understood what had happened. How are you holding up? He asked, his voice heavy with exhaustion. I'm getting blamed for ruining family harmony, I said, surprised by the bitterness in my own voice. Apparently I should have found a better way to handle my sister-in-law's affair and pathological lying. Derek was quiet for a moment. Emma's disappeared. She blocked everyone's numbers, won't answer the door at her parents' house. Her mother called me this morning demanding I fix this mess and take her back. Are you going to? I called a divorce attorney this morning, he said simply. I can't live with someone who's been lying to me for months. The pregnancy doesn't change that. If anything, it makes it worse. Relief flooded through me. Derek wasn't backing down, wasn't letting family pressure convince him to forgive the unforgivable. Sarah, he continued, I know you're getting heat from the family. But you gave me the courage to face the truth about my marriage. I'll always be grateful for that. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen staring at my phone as more messages arrived. The family WhatsApp group was exploding with opinions, most of them variations on the same theme. Sarah had gone too far, Emma was pregnant and deserved compassion, the family needed to heal from this unnecessary drama. The word unnecessary made my blood boil. Emma's systematic deception was necessary, but exposing it was unnecessary? Her affair was acceptable, but revealing it was cruel? The twisted logic of family dysfunction had never been clearer. My phone rang again, Dad this time. Sarah, you need to fix this mess you've created, he said without preamble. Your mother is beside herself, Emma won't talk to anyone, and the family is in chaos. The mess I created? I asked, my voice dangerously calm. Dad, I didn't create Emma's affair. I didn't create her debt. I didn't create her lies about the twins. I simply revealed what was already there. That's not the point. Emma is family, and family protects each other. You humiliated her publicly. Instead of handling this privately. Like the way she handled publicly announcing her pregnancy at my baby shower. I shot back. Like the way she publicly positioned herself as the moral authority of this family while privately living a lie. That's different. No, Dad, it's not different. Emma weaponized family gatherings to build her image and tear down mine. I simply used the same stage to present the truth. The silence that followed was loaded with disapproval. Your mother wants you to call Emma and apologize. I'm not apologizing for telling the truth. Sarah, no, Dad. Listen to me carefully. I spent years accepting blame for things I didn't do wrong. I spent years being the family scapegoat while Emma was praised for virtues she didn't possess. I'm done with that dynamic. I took a deep breath, feeling something shift inside me, settling into a truth I'd been avoiding my entire adult life. If this family wants to blame me for exposing lies rather than blame Emma for living them, that tells me everything I need to know about what this family values. And I refuse to be part of a system that protects liars and punishes truth-tellers. You're being dramatic, I'm being honest, Dad. For the first time in my life, I'm being completely honest about this family's dysfunction. And if that makes me the villain in your story, then so be it. I hung up before he could respond, my heart pounding but my resolve steady. The family could choose sides, could blame me for disrupting their comfortable illusions. But I would not apologize for refusing to be complicit in Emma's deception any longer. The morning sun streamed through my kitchen window, and for the first time in months, I felt genuinely free. The truth had cost me the family's approval, but it had bought me something far more valuable, my own integrity. Emma's house of cards had fallen, and I was no longer trapped beneath the rubble of her lies. The boundary setting I'd done with my father had rippled through the family like a stone thrown into still water, but the waves had finally settled into something I never expected, peace. Standing in my nursery 1 month later, I ran my hand along the smooth rail of the crib I'd assembled without drama, without competition, without anyone trying to steal my moment. The soft yellow walls, painted the weekend after Emma's revelation, reflected morning sunlight that felt different somehow. Cleaner. More honest. The family dynamics had shifted in ways I was still processing. 3 relatives had called to apologize, including Aunt Linda, whose voicemail last week had surprised me with its humility. Sarah, I've been thinking about what you said, about protecting liars and punishing truth-tellers. I realize I did that to you, and I'm sorry. What Emma did was wrong, and you were brave to expose it. Uncle Robert had taken longer to come around. But his text yesterday had been similarly reflective. Maybe the family needed this wake-up call. I'm sorry I blamed you for telling the truth. Even Mom had evolved, slowly and sometimes reluctantly, but genuinely. Our conversation last weekend had been the most honest we'd had in years. I spent so many years trying to keep everyone happy, she'd admitted over coffee in my kitchen. I thought that was what being a good mother meant. But you were right, I was protecting the wrong people from the wrong things. The nursery mobile I'd hung yesterday, delicate wooden stars that caught the light, spun gently in the breeze from the open window. I'd chosen it without input from Emma, without her judgment. About practical versus frivolous purchases. The freedom to make my own choices about my own baby still felt revolutionary. Derek had stopped by 2 days ago to update me on his situation. The divorce was proceeding smoothly, and he'd moved into a furnished apartment downtown. Emma had returned from whatever exile she'd chosen, but she was different now, diminished, no longer the family's golden child. She's been trying to rebuild her image, Derek had told me, settling into my kitchen chair with visible relief. Sending flowers to everyone, writing long apology letters, claiming she had postpartum depression before the baby was even born. Anyone buying it? I'd asked, though I suspected I already knew the answer. A few. But most people remember the evidence we showed them. Hard to unsee photographs and financial records. He paused, then added quietly, thank you, Sarah, for giving me the courage to face the truth about my marriage. The truth. It had been painful to tell and painful to hear, but it had cleared the air in ways I'd never imagined possible. The family conversations now happened without the undercurrent of Emma's manipulation, without her positioning herself as the moral authority while living a lie. I picked up the baby book I'd been working on, a record of my pregnancy that would be honest about this period of my life. My child would grow up knowing their mother had chosen truth over comfort, authenticity over approval. They would understand that sometimes doing the right thing meant disrupting the wrong piece. The nursery door opened, and my husband appeared. With lunch on a tray. How's the nesting going? He asked, setting the food on the rocking chair I'd inherited from my grandmother. Peaceful, I said, and meant it. No drama, no competition, no one trying to turn my baby's nursery into a commentary on their own superiority. He smiled, wrapping his arms around me from behind as we looked around the room together. This kid is going to grow up in a much healthier family than you did. He was right. The family that had enabled Emma's toxicity for years had been forced to confront their own dysfunction. Some members had chosen growth and accountability. Others had chosen to remain stuck in old patterns, but their power to hurt me had been broken by my refusal to participate in their games. Jennifer had become a true ally, often calling to check in and share her own experiences of setting boundaries with toxic family members. "You started something," she told me. "Other people are finally speaking up about things they've been tolerating for years." The ripple effects of truth-telling, I'd learned, extended far beyond the original revelation. Phone buzzed with a text from Derek. "Emma had the baby yesterday. A girl. She's beautiful and healthy. Thought you should know." I stared at the message, feeling a complex mixture of emotions. Relief that the baby was healthy. Sadness for the child who would grow up with a mother who had built her identity on lies. And something else, a kind of closure I hadn't expected. Emma's baby would grow up with the consequences of her mother's choices, just as I had grown up with the consequences of my family's dysfunction. But my child would grow up differently. They would know that truth-telling was valued over peacekeeping, that authenticity was more important than approval, that sometimes love meant holding people accountable for their actions. I placed my hand on my growing belly, feeling the strong kicks of my baby, a child who would never have to compete with Emma's fabricated drama for family attention. This little one would grow up in a world where their mother's pregnancy had been celebrated honestly, where family gatherings weren't performance stages for toxic relatives. The afternoon light shifted, casting new shadows across the nursery floor. In a few months, I would bring my baby home to this peaceful room, to a family that had been purged of its most toxic dynamics. The revelation that had shattered Emma's facade had also shattered the family's willingness to enable her behavior. I had chosen truth over comfort, justice over peace, and authenticity over approval. The costs had been real, some relationships had been lost, some bridges had been burned. But what I'd gained was invaluable: my integrity, my peace of mind, and the knowledge that my child would grow up in a family that valued honesty. Emma's house of cards had fallen, but from its ruins, I had built something better, a foundation of truth strong enough to support the next generation. The new normal wasn't perfect, but it was honest. And for the first time in my adult life, that felt like enough.